Welcome to a deep dive into one of the gems of the early 90s arcade scene, Capcom's Knights of the Round. Released in 1991, this game didn't just mash buttons. It mashed together history and myth with a side of slashing that caught a lot of quarters in its day. But why are we talking about a game that's over 3 decades old? Well, not only did it bring something new to the beat-em-up genre, but its echoes are still felt in games today. Capcom, the powerhouse behind this title, was riding high on the arcade wave with hits like Street Fighter II. Knights of the Round was part of their strategy to diversify the kind of experience gamers could expect from a beat-em-up. So buckle up as we pull back the curtain on this arcade classic, exploring what made it stand out from the crowd and why it's more than just another retro game. We're talking full-on knights, swords, and a quest that redefined what it meant to step up to an arcade cabinet. Ready to take back the days of chivalry and arcade glory? Let's get started. When we dive into the making of Knights of the Round, it's like stepping into a time machine back to the golden age of Capcom. The late 80s and early 90s were a hotbed of innovation and creativity in gaming, and Capcom was at the forefront, experimenting with genres and gameplay mechanics that would set the tone for decades. The development of Knights of the Round was driven by the desire to blend historical narratives with the high-energy action of arcade beat-em-ups. The game was inspired by the legendary tales of King Arthur and his quest for the Holy Grail, but with a Capcom twist that made all the difference. The project was helmed by a team of Capcom veterans who wanted to create a game that wasn't just about fighting, but also about growth and progression, themes that are central to the Arthurian legends. Capcom's development team leveraged the capabilities of the Capcom Play System, or CPS board, a then state-of-the-art platform that allowed richer graphics and more complex game mechanics. This technology enabled them to introduce a leveling system where characters evolve, gaining new armor and abilities, which was quite a novelty for beat-em-ups of that era. The sprite work in Knights of the Round is a standout. Characters are not only detailed and distinct, but also large and animated with a fluidity that was pretty advanced. Each knight, enemy, and even the background elements were crafted with an attention to detail that helped bring the Arthurian legend to life. The levels themselves tell a story, from dark forests to grand castles, each stage setting a scene for the knight's quest. This immersive environment wasn't just about looking around, it was about feeling the weight of the knight's journey through a visually engaging world. Musically, Knights of the Round delivers a score that is both epic and perfectly tuned to the setting. The compositions blend heroic motifs and medieval undertones, creating an auditory experience that complements the clash of swords and the drama of the narrative. It's the kind of music that doesn't just accompany the gameplay, but enhances it, building the tension and excitement while reinforcing the game's epic scope. Alright, let's get into the nuts and bolts of what makes Knights of the Round stand out in the crowded arcade scene of the early 90s. It wasn't just another beat-em-up, it had a couple of aces up its gauntlet-clad sleeves that changed up the gameplay in ways that had us all dropping more coins than we'd like to admit. First off, the leveling system. This wasn't just about smashing through enemies, it was about growing stronger, piece by piece, battle by battle. As you slashed through opponents and racked up points, your character didn't just get tougher, they got visibly more badass. Starting off in a pretty basic armor, your knight would gradually deck out in increasingly epic gear as you leveled up. This visual progression wasn't just cool to look at, it gave you a real sense of advancement and power that few other games offered. But Capcom didn't stop there. They added a real strategic element to the mix with the block and counter system. Instead of the usual dodge and attack routine, you could actually block incoming attacks if you timed it right and immediately counter them with a strike of your own. This added a layer of skill and timing that turned what could be a mindless button masher into a game where your reflexes and tactical decisions mattered. Then there's the shared treasure mechanic. When you defeated an enemy and they dropped loot, it wasn't just a free-for-all. You had to decide, grab the gold for a score boost or leave it for a mate to help them level up. This brought in a cooperative yet competitive angle that made playing with friends a dynamic and sometimes diplomatically challenging experience. These gameplay mechanics fostered a deeper level of engagement than many of its contemporaries. Knights of the Round wasn't just about hacking through waves of enemies, it was about mastering your knight's capabilities and strategically navigating through levels that felt more like epic quests than mere beat-em-up stages. It's this intricate blend of strategy, progression, and cooperative gameplay that not only defined Knights of the Round, but also left a lasting impact on how we played games together. Knights of the Round features King Arthur, Sir Lancelot, and Sir Percival, pulling us into a chivalric romance of Arthurian legend, but with an arcade twist that only Capcom could spin. King Arthur starts as the well-balanced all-rounder, wielding Excalibur with a noble grace that's as strategic as it is deadly. Then there's Lancelot, the swift swordsman whose agility lets players slice through enemies quicker than you can say Camelot. And let's not forget Percival, the powerhouse, whose brute strength can clear crowds with his massive axe but at the cost of speed. Choosing your character in Knights of the Round isn't just about preference, it's about strategy. Each knight brings a unique playstyle to the table, influencing not just how you fight, but how you progress through the game. The story itself is a clever adaptation of the quest for the Holy Grail, reimagined through the lens of an arcade beat-em-up. As you journey through the game's levels, you're not just fighting off endless minions, you're embarking on a noble quest, complete with challenges that test your mettle and morality. This narrative depth was somewhat of a rarity for arcade games at the time, which often favored straightforward action over complex storytelling. What's particularly fascinating about Knights of the Round is how the narrative and gameplay intertwine. The leveling system, for instance, isn't just a visual upgrade, it's a representation of your character's journey towards becoming a true knight, both in armor and in spirit. As you level up, it's like watching a knightly tale unfold, with each new piece of armor marking a chapter in that epic story. In a world where video games were still carving out their narrative space, Knights of the Round dared to tell a story where players weren't just participants, but heroes in a legend brought to life. When this game hit the arcade in 1991, it made waves. Not just for a fun game to play, but as a technical marvel that pushed the boundaries of what arcade games were capable of in that era. Upon its release, Knights of the Round garnered attention for its innovative mechanics, like the leveling system and the shared loot concept, which were pretty groundbreaking. Gamers and critics alike praised the game for its depth and strategic elements that set it apart from typical beat-em-ups. This wasn't just another side-scroller. This was a game that challenged you to think and collaborate, making it a favorite not only among casual players, but hardcore arcade enthusiasts as well. But it's not just about the nostalgia. The game's influence can still be seen today. Knights of the Round helped pave the way for future games that balanced action with RPG elements, a formula that has become increasingly popular in modern gaming. Its emphasis on character progression and cooperative play has echoed through the ages, influencing a wide array of genres and titles looking to blend narrative depth with engaging gameplay. In the gaming community, the Knights of the Round became a favorite for its cooperative play. This wasn't just a game you played, it was a game you experienced with friends. The strategic element like sharing loot and choosing when to level up made each playthrough unique, fostering a sense of teamwork and camaraderie that was somewhat rare in the often competitive arcade environment. This aspect of the game cultivated a dedicated following, one that thrived on collaboration and shared strategy. The game also found a place in the competitive scene though. Tournaments and speedruns became popular, with players looking to showcase their skill in navigating through the game's challenges as quickly as possible. These events not only highlighted the game's depth, but also its capacity to be a spectator sport, drawing crowds who appreciated the high-level play and strategic depth that Knights of the Round offered. But what really set Knights of the Round apart in a genre that was already packed with heavy hitters? Well, let's start with Final Fight, a classic that pretty much defined the beat-em-up genre. Knights of the Round brought more than just brawling to the table. While Final Fight focused on raw, street fighting action with a straightforward approach, Knights of the Round introduced its RPG element like character leveling and a more complex combat system with blocking and counterattacks. This wasn't just about pounding the pavement and enemies, it was about strategy and growth, adding some more layers to the gameplay that Final Fight didn't explore. Then there's the Dungeons & Dragons arcade series, which actually did venture into RPG territory more explicitly. Compared to Dungeons & Dragons, Knights of the Round feels like a bridge between traditional beat-em-ups and the deeper, story-driven gameplay of RPGs. Both games feature medieval themes and progression elements, but Knights of the Round maintains a stronger focus on the classic beat-em-up gameplay, making it accessible yet deep enough for those looking for more than just hack and slash. So what's the final verdict on Knights of the Round? Is it just another relic from the pixelated past, or does it hold the holy grail of gaming goodness? Well, if you've been riding along with us, you'd know it's less about looking for a dusty old cup and more about the journey it offers. A journey packed with slashing, leveling up, and a whole lot of knightly camaraderie. In wrapping this up, let's be real, this game has more layers than Lancelot's armor. It wasn't just hacking, slashing, and button mashing. It was about strategy, growth, and pulling together with your pals to take down some seriously bad medieval vibes. And let's not forget, it brought the Arthurian legend back into the gaming spotlight, with just enough flair to make even Merlin tip his hat. Here's to hoping the next generation of gamers finds as much joy in these retro reels as we did. And hey, who knows? Maybe they'll even learn a thing or two about chivalry along the way. Check it out! If you enjoyed exploring the history and making of Knights of the Round, click this video here to see more from the Retro Reload. And, as always, thank you for watching.